energy sector in Puerto Rico. He has shown that he is on the right side of history in this great debate about what is right for Puerto Rico's energy future. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce to you Governor Rico.
And our role as a government will be to start reducing the red tape and making sure things move faster so that we can foster a better economy, have it be vibrant and dynamic, and create a lot of jobs. And number two, we want Puerto Rico to be the connector of the Americas. To me, this is important because it is almost intuitive if you see a map and if you see our history and our culture. You see Puerto Rico is dead smack in the middle of the Americas. And we are part of the United States, and we share a culture with the rest of Latin America. So really, both geographically and culturally, Puerto Rico is where everything should meet. So it is our objective within the next couple of years to make sure that Puerto Rico becomes one of these very attractive places in America, so that everything, business, diplomacy, everything, has a site, has a place here in our island. Number three, and of course very much related to this conversation, is having in Puerto Rico that is the island of innovation. And of course in energy, we really want to leapfrog, have that quantum leap towards innovation. The main reason behind this is, our best resource is our human resource. And we want to make sure that the way we keep it over here and the way we stay relevant is by innovating within our island. And that takes me to my fourth point, which is converting Puerto Rico in what we're calling the home of the human cloud. Might need a little explanation. The idea is that many of the jobs that we are seeing around the world are becoming more geographically independent as time goes along. And people are going to start to be choosing where they want to live because they can serve any population elsewhere. So we really need to make Puerto Rico an attractive place. Has various phases. Phase one, we want to make sure that the traditional exodus of Puerto Ricans stops. And number two, we want to make sure that we can invite those that have left to come back to the island. And number three, we want to establish a platform for folks that probably never even thought about Puerto Rico as a destination for them to live, to come back and stay over here. And lastly, and you'll see how this is linked, we are envisioning a Puerto Rico that is one of the exciting things that is happening right now. So of course, we came in with those 5 high-level objectives with our administration. Fiscal chaos, economic distress, but we were committed to making structural changes along that path. One of those structural changes that we wanted to embark was a transformation or reform of the energy system. At that point, I must admit that perhaps our objectives were a little bit longer viewed. We had an objective. We wanted to make sure we arrived at building a new model, but we set let's say a longer timeline towards the future. A couple of months into my administration, we get hit by not one but 2 major hurricanes, and everybody saw what happens. What happens when an island gets devastated, when a jurisdiction has the worst case scenario within its hands, and how it needs to respond. And in that moment, you saw the importance of having access to energy, of having resiliency, and of having a model energy system that works. So right after the storm, a couple of months after the storm, even as we were just getting out of the emergency phase of the recovery, I called upon our citizens and said, hey, you know that plan that we have for energy? Well, let's do it, but let's do it with an even bigger sense of urgency, because we don't know when another calamity is going to hit, number one. And the great opportunity that we have right now to make those changes is in our hands. We can't wait longer. Let's make sure we do what other folks have talked about for decades. Let's do it now in Puerto Rico. It is important, and I'm sure you'll talk about this, about the state of our energy grid here in Puerto Rico. How do we think of all these problems that we have in Puerto Rico, and how do we make them be a unique opportunity? Now, my advisors cringe when I do this, but what I did was I wanted to set up a roadmap, literally a handwritten these problems that we had and make it into an opportunity. So, high level, what we wanted to do was make sure that the good things that we had in Puerto Rico, we could promote them better, we can make them even better. So they're even bigger attractive. But the second tier of thought is, how do we take some things that have been a chronic historical problem in Puerto Rico and make them into a huge opportunity to engage and to move forward, and to take something that was recognized as critically backtracked and make it into a model towards the future. One was our education model. In Puerto Rico, we have many talented people, many talented children. Fortunately, our education system was failing our kids. Now we are embarking in a transformation so that we can give more options, more choice, and one of the lowest 5 or 10 in the world. So how do we get people out of the informal economy? How do we get people back into looking for jobs? Well, we've worked on some reforms in that respect so that we can start having that transition. They include earned income tax credit, welfare to work transition. We are increasing minimum wage on reconstruction efforts so that people can transition into the workforce. And all these pieces will help us take something that has been a chronic problem and make it into an opportunity. And lastly, the reason why you're all over here is energy. It is the one unique opportunity now that we have to really step up to the plate, hit fifth gear, have a sense of urgency, and change our energy. And in order to do that, there were several levers that we had to pull. Number one, as you know, historically, PREPA has not had the best record. What were the things within the devastation that we needed to do in order to start making this transformation happen, and see where the federal government should play a significant role. So in that effort, we came to a whole host of stakeholders. Many of you that are over here, so that we can hear you out, listen to you, and you are the leaders of industry. We're going to have given a concession model for the transmission and distribution. On the second level is to see what generation needs are there in Puerto Rico and how we can collaborate with outside stakeholders so they can produce that. So that was the first piece of energy that we needed to work with. We have a public-private alliance law that is the gold standard in our view. It has the most aggressive pipeline within the United States of public-private partnership efforts. Many of them in energy. Many of them unsolicited proposals, which are things that we probably wouldn't have thought of if the private sector didn't come in and give us those ideas, and we evaluated them. If they're better for Puerto Rico, we would execute them. A market sounding. A lot of people were skeptical if Puerto Rico would be a good market. When we came out with the transmission and distribution, originally we had 5 conglomerates having an interest in Puerto Rico, which was way above what we expected and above what was being published out there. So there was a unique interest that was moving forward. Local and operational efficiencies at the local level, which have been enacted and are working with our director, Jose Ortiz. Those are on their way, and they are moving forward. And lastly, and a very important piece, was Law 17. And I know this is the most important piece in this effort, and I want to thank all of you, but in particularly, I want to thank Senator Larry Selhammer and Senator Wanda. With that bipartisan effort, we were able to attract a whole host of stakeholders to give us insights and to tell us what were the obstacles, what are the unique opportunities, and how we can innovate moving towards the future. So now we have all of these resources, and of course, we're going to get, at some point, federal resources coming in to also rebuild and you know, if the storm was an indication of anything, is that climate change is very real, and it's really impacting places like Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, studies have come out that have shown that Puerto Rico is the third jurisdiction that has been most affected by climate change. Now I'm putting my scientist hat on, and this is, to me, the most important issue of our times. How do we mitigate? How do we innovate? How do we make sure we adjust? All of those questions are very important, and that's why we came out with our pledge for Puerto Rico. Our pledge for Puerto Rico includes a whole host of things, but at the very top of the list, they include things that were incorporated into Law 17 and incorporated into a law that was just recently passed and is ready for me to sign for climate change. Those are not only talking about the high-level aspiration of having 100% renewables by 2050, which is an important step, but actually having accountability in the in-between. 2050 is far away. We need to start showing results immediately. So what our commitment is that whether you see the law or the pledge, anytime between 2023 and 2025, we want to have 40% renewables. Reiterate that we are committed to this objective and that we're here to help all of the stakeholders come to Puerto Rico. We want to reduce our carbon footprint by 50% in the next 5 to 7 years. We want to achieve the 100%, and we want to take all of the recovery funding and all of our CapEx and invest them into resiliency projects. Which takes me to this final point of the huge opportunity that we have. I talked about originally what I thought were our 5 high-level objectives for Puerto Rico. Energy is intricately related to all of them. If we have a great energy that if we take this opportunity and become an island of innovation, we can start using whatever's at the vanguard of renewable energies and implement that over here. We can start in different places in Puerto Rico, and whether it be with microgrids, smaller nanogrids, whether it be on the island of Vieques, we can start test casing some of the higher level aspirations that we can scale up elsewhere in the world, but we can provide them here in Puerto Rico. If we provide that model, people are going to come over here, and they're going to see that this is a model worthy of repeating, and Puerto Rico is naturally going to become a connector of the Americas. And by innovating, I not only mean innovating in energy, I'm also seeing that we innovate in resiliency in general. Energy as a critical part of that important aspect. And by the same token, making sure that we have an island that becomes the home of the human cloud. If you have accessible energy, if you have choice on energy, if you empower the consumer, that's going to happen. And lastly, which was probably when I talk about this, the most complicated item to link to all of this, it's the empowering state. How does it connect to energy? Well, we see energy as or access to energy as an important right. You need to have access to energy. If there was any high-level learnings from the hurricane, was that even if your priority is education, or even if your priority is healthcare, or having good paying jobs, or battling inequality, which are all important efforts, if you have a collapsed energy system, it all collapses with it. But if you have energy as a strong, robust linchpin towards your society, all of those efforts are sustained and will be able to flourish. So, in summary, I am excited about the opportunities in Puerto Rico, and I hope that you can be excited about them too. I see in the crowd possibly between 80 and 100 billion dollars coming in to rebuild our island. A lot of it will go towards the energy grid so that we can make it more sustainable. We have some of the most aggressive incentives for businesses to take place here in the island. We have a new law, particularly on the energy sector, that will facilitate what all of you will be doing. We have the opportunity zones that are everywhere else in the nation, amass about 20% of states. In Puerto Rico, it's practically 100% of the island that qualifies for our opportunity zones, and it'll be a better effort for your investment. So while there have been many challenges in Puerto Rico, there are also opportunities. And I feel that the energy sector is primed to become that big opportunity, that big boom that we can make Puerto Rico into a huge moment. I ask all of you to consider Puerto Rico, to consider investing, to consider being part of the renovating effort in Puerto Rico. And for those of you that are coming from the States or from elsewhere, consider partnering up with local partners that already know the landscape and that can be of critical supply and help in this effort. If we do this together, I am convinced that Puerto Rico will be the model for energy, and you will have helped build the new Puerto Rico. Thank you, and I hope you have a great time.